Hey everyone, in this series of tutorials I'll be showing you how to do battle damage to your Gunpla similar to this. This is a Zagu 2 Johnny Ridden custom, and as you can see I did some battle scarring, some cuts in the armor, bullet holes, energy blasts, some saber scars, and just overall weathering, such as dirt on the feet and some silver painting. So this was actually my first Gunpla I've ever built, and I decided to go ahead and weather it and do all the battle damage and everything. So if I can do it, so can you. And I'm going to show you how the steps I took in order to get my Saga 2 similar to that. It has some mistakes and things, but I've done many more kits since then. So today we'll be working on a GM or RGM 79G for reference, but we're going to take it step by step and I'll show you how to come out with the final result. We'll go from battle scarring such as scuffs and cuts in the armor, to the bullet holes, to the energy blast, to the painting, and then to the final touches like dirt on the feet and mud and snow and stuff like that. For this kit we'll stick to mud and sand, but for snow it's a similar technique, but we'll cover that later. So I've already done some parts on my RGM, and this is kind of what you'll end up with. This is just a arm. As you can see, there's some roughness on the edges, some scuffs, and cuts in the armor. I'll show you the steps I take to do that. This isn't super professional or anything. This is just sort of a casual approach to this thing, but I've done it in all my kits, and I'll splice in some pictures or so of the MG ball that I did, and that's kind of my favorite weathering job. But we'll be working on a leg today, and this right here is the leg that I've already done. Again, some cuts in the armor, scuffs, things like that. As you can see side by side, you can kind of see the difference that it has. I think it just gives a more realistic and interesting effect, and you can kind of give your own personal touch to these sort of things. So what you'll be needing is a Dremel tool. This is sort of a multi-purpose sort of a hand drill. You can also use a router, which only has a sanding bit at the end, but then you'll need something else like a file or something to do the cuts. I say just invest in a Dremel if you're going to be doing this to many kits or as your hobby, just because you can switch out the bits for a drill to do the bullet holes, or a sanding bit, or a cutting bit. So what you'll want to start off with is one of these. This is just a bit that comes with the Dremel tool itself, and then it comes with these sort of sanding pads, I think. I don't know what to really call them, but I'm just going to get that on my Dremel. And we'll start battle scarring this leg. So what we're going to do is along the edges here and along here, you just kind of take whichever ones you want, wherever you think the scars will be, and you'll just take your Dremel tool and you'll just sort of go along the edge, just like that, and shaving away what you think is an acceptable amount. I don't do too much unless they're really beaten up, because you'll end up going through the plastic and leaving it hollow. For some of these cuts here, I did go kind of all the way with the cutting bit, just because I wanted you to be able to see through parts of the armor. I think it just gives it a little more interesting effect. But for the scuffs, like here on the foot, I just want it to be roughed up, because kind of clean edges don't really happen on weathered mobile suits, at least I'd like to think. So you'll want to really sort of emphasize parts on the feet, as that's what we'll be trudging through mud and sand and forest and stuff like that. You'll also want to focus on the back here, because that's where the mole suit will be moving its joints and stuff, and perhaps scraping a lot of branches or steel beams or something, or whatever scenario you decide to create for your mole suit. I'm going for more of a desert and light forest kind of look, so a lot of branches and stuff might get cut off and stuff. The scars here are, I'd like to think, like glancing blows from bullets or something like that. So yeah, we'll get started on that. So first you'll want to do the sort of light scuffs here. So again, along the edges, wherever you think. I'm going to do the knee here. I'm going to do parts of the foot, and back here on the calf. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that. It's quite loud, so I'll edit down the sound, but I like to start on a relatively high setting just because it'll shave away plastic quicker. If that kind of gives it a more smooth look. If you want to give it a really rough look, you can put on a lower setting and put some pressure on it, and you'll get kind of big chunks coming out of it. That can be kind of hard to control, and you could end up getting a very uneven look that doesn't look real. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I'm at about 6 or 8. And usually I'd have a bin here or something to catch all the plastic flying off, but for the purposes of this video, I don't. So. You might want to wear goggles or something, because plastic will go flying everywhere, but I wear glasses, so it doesn't really bother me. I just kind of get chunks of plastic on the outside of my glasses. I'm sort of roughing up the little spikes out here, because if the mole suit was kneeling, I'd suspect those would get worn away much quicker than the rest of this. Okay, so that sort of gives you an idea of, sorry, just getting some plastic off my glasses, of what you'll be doing around all the edges. As you can see, I took some chunks off of the knee here, because that's where the mole suit will be kneeling. I'll probably go over that a little bit more in a sec here. Some parts here where, just regular, some wear and tear could happen. Some parts on the side here. I'll go ahead and go over all this with my Dremel, getting all the spots. I'm sure you guys don't really want to see all of it, but kind of have creative liberty over it. Do what you think feels right. Always keep sort of your scenario in hand, like would it make sense for certain scuffs to be in certain places. For example, I don't think I'd really put a scuff on the inside here, because I wouldn't imagine anything really bothering that part or scuffing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that, and then we'll be back with the glancing blows and stuff like that. Okay. Alright guys, so I'm back from roughing up the sling. As you can see, I did some scuffing on the edges here, more on the knee a bit here, roughed up the foot quite a bit, and worked on the back here. So now that you've done that, you'll notice that some parts have some excess plastic sticking off. Let's see if I can find a good one. Yeah, back here. You can sort of see, yeah, some excess plastic sticking off there. So what you want to do is grab yourself some high grit sandpaper. This is a 400 grit, I believe 400 to 200. I don't even think they make 200, 400, whatever. We'll stick with that. And just sort of sand those off, kind of smooth these out just a little bit, just enough so you get the chunks off. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just sort of work down here. Sort of get those chunks off. Make sure nothing looks funky. You want them to be scuffs, not... You don't want it to look like someone went over your model with a Dremel. This is mostly removing excess plastic, and you'll have yourself a big mess on your table. Like I said, usually I use the bottom. Actually, this is a good tip. I usually use the bottom of the kit, this part of the box, right, that has nothing on it, to practice, to mix paints and do my sanding and do my all my model building over. That way I can catch all the plastic and just dump it and continue working. So, and this is actually a really good example. On this sort of ankle joint thing here, there's a lot of excess plastic that I need to remove or smooth out. And at this point, what I would suggest doing is going over your whole piece that you're working on with either this high grit sandpaper or a low grit. I'm sorry, this is a low grit sandpaper lightly, or roughly with a high grit sandpaper. I do this while building, so I would take a piece, sand it, or obviously cut off the nibs, sand it up, and then put it together. And the reason why I do this is it gets rid of that kind of shiny plastic look, and there's a lot of times where the plastic, when it goes into a mold, the plastic will kind of seep into each other and create kind of ugly lines where the plastic sort of met, and you can kind of see it. I'd have to find an example to show you all, but I currently don't have one. But sanding it as you build, and sanding it in general, will eliminate those, and it will also turn a more plastic looking kit into a more realistic looking kit. We're going to matte spray it in the end, no matter what, but I feel that sanding it kind of helps along the way and kind of gets rid of the sharp edges that a lot of these kits have, just because that's how they have to be built. Another reason why you sand it is because when we get to the painting stage, sanding it will create little scratches in the plastic where your paint will get kind of seeped into, will get caught by the paint, and this creates a more realistic scratched metal look. You know, if you took a painted piece of metal and you went across it with a knife or something, you'll start chipping away the paint, because it's such a smaller scale. Sandpaper is kind of like that knife. So you either want to do that while building, or you could do it now. It's completely up to you, but you definitely want to do it before you start painting. So I think I've removed all the plastic. I think I did a while ago. I was just doing this as visual stimulus while I talked, but we'll move on. So now we're going to do this thing, these glancing blows, and what we'll need is something like this. Now this is it doesn't normally look like this. I've used this on a lot of things, and so it's a combination of wood and burnt soot and stuff. Well, this is a diamond cutter, and don't let that throw you off. This thing was about $1. um, it's just a blade that that cuts. I mean, there's not really much to it. You could find similar bits in hobby stores and stuff. This one was just for a Dremel. Most of them are for Dremels, but you'll want something like this. Again, you could use a file, and a file's fine. I just feel like a file, you don't get as fine control as you do with something like this, where it's far sharper. Mine's a little dull, so I'll probably have to get a new one soon. But in any case, we're going to be using something like that. So, if I can get this thing off, there we go. And then that. Now you'll have to be careful with this because this thing is spinning fast and this thing is meant to cut, so you can't slice your finger. So be very careful. But as long as you keep your fingers away and you kind of go at a slow speed, it'll cut through this pretty easily. So all I'm going to do is set this at a relatively high speed, around between 6, 8, 7, something like that. And I'm just going to imagine bullets coming at this leg. Where would they hit? I'm thinking like here, perhaps across the knee, maybe across the outside of this leg. So I think I'm going to do this part first, just because it's just a bit of variety from my other leg. Kind of going over it just like the sandpaper. And a thing to keep in mind, if you're going to think these are like bullets or anything like that, you'll want to make the entry point, actually, get that out of the way, the entry point wider than the exit point, so you want it to taper off, kind of like that. So sorry, I've got to sort of bring this towards my face so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do a little bit on the knee here. And this is the outside of my leg, so I'd imagine more things glancing the outside than the inside. My suggestion to you guys is don't go too overboard with the scratches and stuff like that, or the glances and stuff. I mean, imagine it's a little more realistic. I mean, I guess it depends on the scenario. If you think this guy's getting absolutely pelleted with bullets, you'll have much more. But you want to keep it sort of tamed. It just makes for a more realistic look. For example, I have an MG Justa here that I've also battle damage and stuff, and you can see the shield here just has a few energy blasts, maybe like 2 cuts. His shoulders have just only just a tamed amount of bullet wounds and stuff like that. You don't want to go too overboard and also look too cartoony, and maybe that's how you want it to be. It's all up to you, but I like to shoot for more realistic, as if these things actually existed rather than in the anime and manga. So just kind of go over, like I said, with the cuts. You put these wherever you feel appropriate. You want to kind of, if you're going to work on legs and arms and stuff, you may want to keep it relatively symmetrical in terms of the amount of damage going on. Mine's Johnny Ridden Custom. I imagined him getting completely shot up on his right side, so only his right leg really has a lot of wear and tear, and the left leg has less, but still some cuts and stuff. So this guy has quite a few cuts, so I'll have to make it look more similar to that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to the sort of final step of this scuffing and cuts and stuff. Alright, so cutting's all done. I just added just a few more, just some on just one on the foot and one on the side, and just a little bit more. So next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna notice like there's these huge chunks of plastic that are sticking off, and all you're gonna do is take your low grit sandpaper again and just kind of peels off. You can use your fingers for some of the bigger ones, like this one. You just peel off. See, I've got a huge chunk here. Just peel that off. But just kind of go over it with the sandpaper again. You don't want to go for these. You don't want to go. Some plastic got stuck between my nails. You don't want to sand too much away, because if something like this were to happen to a mobile suit or any piece of metal, really, some parts of the metal would splay out towards the end and the beginning, so you'd kind of get like a effect. I don't know how to explain more than that without an onomatopoeia, but yeah, you get the idea. So just kind of go over, get the huge chunks out of the way, but leave a little bit of splaying out as you can. So kind of get in there. You may need to, depending on how you do it, I kind of messed up on this a little bit. This wasn't like one clean shot. I have like different kind of pads for this one, so I may want to get rid of some of the, it'll be kind of hard to see simply because this is white. But I'll want to like get rid of the plastic between these two paths to kind of make this one path. So I'm gonna do that real quick. All I did was take the cutter just down that middle path and bridge those two things together. So with all that sanded up, you are pretty much done with scuffing and glancing blows and stuff. So just go ahead and fix up whatever you feel needs to be fixed up. Maybe go over a few more times sanding, making sure your scuffs and stuff look good. For me, sometimes I like to go over sort of these flat areas to give some more character to the flat pieces of plastic. I'd like, depending on your scenario, again, this is all your sort of scenario you've created for your mobile suit. I'd like to think this guy is getting shot at from the front, so most of these glancing blows are going to be hitting the front and going behind. So I don't have any sort of cuts or anything in the back. So unless you have a mobile suit who's been attacked in the back or something, it's pretty unlikely that a bullet would find its way going from the back to the front or from the side. So that's all up to you. Again, it depends on what sort of scenario, what kind of look you're going for your mobile suit. So that ends that for this part, and the next part we'll be doing bullet holes and how to make those look more like bullet holes rather than just holes in the armor, because I've seen plenty of people simply take a drill and just go straight through and be like, bullet hole. There's a little technique to making it look good. So that's it for this first part. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.